The Vacancies Act, my buddy Andy McCarthy wrote a piece on this in National Review. The Vacancies Act is a law that's been in the books actually quite a long time. And it enables the president, as he writes, to name an acting officer who may serve as such for 210 days, as long as the person named has been working at the agency or department for at least 90 days in a fairly high-ranking position. Now, Whitaker qualifies. He was chief of staff to the Attorney General. He's a former U.S. attorney. And so we heard lies on so-called news programs yesterday saying that this wasn't legal. You heard Joe Scarborough say, if it's legal, his appointment, it is legal. So he's a propagandist. He's a demagogue. He's a fool. And Joe, I wish for your children what you wish for Trump's children. A long stay in state prison. And Mika Brzezinski's children, too. I'm tired of the Trump children being attacked. And let me make a couple other points before we get back to Governor Scott's press conference. I was going to hold this till Sunday, but I'll mention it now here. I was going to hold it till the Fox show. Mr. President, the purpose of Congressional Oversight Committee investigations and hearings has to relate to legitimate legislative activity. Your personal finances, I'm going to say this now, and you'll hear this repeated tomorrow ad infinitum. People will not give credit. It's okay. I'll do the thinking. Let them do the repeating. When it comes to your personal taxes with your private corporation, when it comes to your personal finances, Congress has absolutely no legitimate oversight responsibility. You file your taxes with the Internal Revenue Service, and they do with them as whatever they do with them. But there is no legitimate oversight activity of your personal finances. Well, we want to see what he invested in this and that. You don't get to go on fishing expeditions into people's personal records. You should litigate that all the way to the Supreme Court. That the Article I powers of Congress do not include the securing of personal, private, financial records and tax returns for the purpose of democratic objectives. That is, capital D, Democratic Party objectives. And you have separation of powers issues on this, too. The oversight is of programs, policies, departments, agencies, and so forth and so on. Congress doesn't exist to oversee your tax returns or your businesses. And they can't make the argument you have to prove a negative. Well, until we see the tax returns, we don't know if there's anything. So what? That's not how it works. So I'm telling you, tell your man Jay Sekulow, tell Rudy Giuliani, tell all your lawyers, the White House, I know you're listening to me. Write it down, pass it to the boss. Congress does not have constitutional authority to investigate or oversee the president's tax returns or private businesses or that of his children. There's already criminal investigation going on. If a prosecutor chooses to go in that direction, so be it. But the purpose of congressional oversight is to determine whether there needs to be a legislative fix. You don't just get to investigate for the purposes of investigating. And, Mr. President, I would litigate it. I'd start at the lowest court, work your way through a panel of the appellate court, demand that the entire appellate court hear the case, then go up to the Supreme Court. Take your time. Take your time. You're in no hurry. And that goes for any of the other personal, private matters the president has been involved in prior to becoming president as well. We want to see the Stormy Daniels deal. I'll see you in court. We want to see this deal. We want to see your labor contracts. I'll see you in court. Because the framers of the Constitution had no intention of empowering Congress this way. They didn't create a Soviet Politburo. They created a Congress. So there are ways to fight them. And I hope your lawyers are giving you this advice. I'll give you the best advice. I've been through these fights. I've had to battle 3 different independent counsel. And I also represented the Attorney General against the most abusive independent counsel, Lawrence Walsh, in the Iran-Contra matter. All the commentators on TV have not. All the eggheads on TV have not. I have. I know the rules. And same with Congress. A year ago, when I was saying the president can't be indicted, I was being contradicted by the eggheads. They were wrong. I was shown to be right. A year ago, when I said the president of the United States need not honor a subpoena if the subpoena insists on his physical appearance or seeks to get involved in constitutional matters that are clearly the prerogative of the president. The egghead said, no, he must appear if he does. I said, no, I was right. The appointments clause. I said that applies to Mr. Mueller, and you're hearing it all day long why it applies to Mr. Mueller. Well, you can't fire Mueller, you can't do this, you can't oversee him, you can't have a new attorney general. They should be gathering all that information, all those statements, in order in part to make their case. That, look, even these people say he's a principal officer. So the Vacancy Act, I would encourage the judicial analyst, and he knows who he is, to read it. And same with the news program he was on. Because yesterday they were pushing out like this was Watergate, like this was the Saturday Night Massacre. It was disgusting. All the networks, all the cable channels. It's clear the President of the United States had the authority to do this. It's clear his counsel looked at it. And everybody knows he does. Except apparently the media.